Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Karen Dittman. She is a mother, she is an author, and we'll talk about a lot of things. We'll talk about how to thrive through life's toughest trials, how overcoming life challenges, and through faith, family, and also the grace cycle. We'll all talk about all that. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you, AJ. It's great to be here with you.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. Karen, I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to discuss right now. As we said, we'll talk about thriving through life's toughest trials that you have been through. We'll talk about that. But before that, let's understand a bit about your journey, your background, so that people know who they are listening to.
Yeah, so I have been married for over 36 years, and we have now 3 children. And so 2 of our kids are in their 20s. And then, surprise, surprise, right before our 25th anniversary, we found out I was pregnant. So we also have a 10-year-old. And we're also raising our 6-year-old grandchild. So we've got lots of family stuff, and I do a lot of mom stuff, and at the same time trying to build a business and just helping people to understand how they can thrive and they can live the life that they're designed to live, even when life gets hard.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a bit about about your uh, challenges, about how you supported your kid through 5 big A's that you call about adoption, anxiety, ADHD, autism, and addiction. Help us understand. These are several topics which you yourself that even one topic can be overwhelming for anyone, and this is where so they can do a lot of learning from your story and how you dealt with these 5 A's in your life.
Yeah. So our older 2 kids are adopted. My husband and I were not able to have children the natural way when we were early in our marriage. And then, of course, it was something of a miracle that I got pregnant all those years later. But our first 2 children are adopted. And so just walking them through life, understanding, why they ended up in the situation of not being able to be with birth mom and having to be part of a different family. So we had a lot of conversations with the 2 of them growing up, just about identity and about being part of a loving family, because their birth mom wasn't in a position where she was able to take care of them and raise them. My oldest was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 19. And so there was a lot that I didn't understand when he was younger that was actually behaviors that were related to ADHD. So that was a big revelation when he got that diagnosis. And then, different kids have all dealt with anxiety. Our grandchild, our youngest that we're raising, has been diagnosed with autism. And so it's been constantly learning the best way to support each one of them through their own trials.
Absolutely, absolutely. So these are big challenges. And the bigger challenge was how to look at those challenges. How did you look at all these things when you were going through this, Karan? I want to understand your mindset, your motivation. Many a times people just leave it all. They just don't have that capacity. So I want to understand your inspiration, your motivation, and what helped you at that point in time.
So I'll be honest, AJ, there was a time when I was younger when my go-to was just suck it up and get through it. Just do what has to be done and survive day to day. And that's exhausting. It's really exhausting. So
Right.
I have learned over the years to come to a place of knowing that I can't change these things and I can't change the past, but I can choose to accept what's going on, and through my faith and through prayer, I can seek what is the best way to move forward in all of these different situations. So, for me, one of the real important keys over the last several years has been learning acceptance. Just learning that I can't change the past. There are things that I can't change. I can accept them, and from that place of acceptance, I can make some choices about how I'm gonna handle it and how I'm going to respond.
Right, right, uh, Karen. But I want to understand. You talked about faith. So how did your faith guide you through this all? Tell us a bit. People are doing what they are doing in their life. They do have faith, but many a times you have the thing in your hand, but you do not know how to actually use it. How did you use faith to guide you in your life, in your difficulties?
Oh, that's a good question, because I think you're right that a lot of times we have faith, or, we believe that we know God and God knows us, but what difference does that make? So I have learned some things about just I think one of my really important skills that I've learned is actually to sit down. I love this chair actually for that purpose, but I sit down in my chair. I just get quiet. I understand that God is present with me all the time. He is present with me here. And I just spend time being quiet and just letting go of all of the things that are occupying my mind. And from that place, I can even envision myself taking the things that are worrying me, that are concerning me, and literally handing them over to God. And then more of a prayer time can happen where I talk to God about, this is what I'm feeling, and what do you have to say about what I'm experiencing and what I want. But for me, it's really important for me to just let go of all of my thoughts so that then I can make space to hear what God actually has to say to me.
Right. And what did God say to you?
Oh my goodness. God has told me things like, you need to stop fighting against what's going on. And um, another thing that God has said to me is, um, stop trying to talk to the kids about all of the things that you want to see them do differently, and let me speak to them. And so, as a mom, what I really want to do is want to go in and bring all my wisdom and all my life experience. And I have had to let myself slow down, and instead of just saying whatever comes to mind, kind of slow down and say, hmm, God, is that something I need to say right now? Or is it something I need to hold on to? And maybe there's a better time, a more appropriate time to say this thing that I'm thinking about. And is there something that I need to just let go and trust that in the right time, God is going to talk to my kids about the things that they need to know?
Right, right. You came up with this interesting point about God telling to stop fighting. Now, even a lazy person will like that. How do
Mm.
you look at resilience then? God also wants us to be resilient in our difficult times, to fight things, because he has given that power to us. We are all made in his image. He himself faced a lot of problems when he was on earth. So I want to understand all these things from that. How do we know when to fight back in terms of building resilience, to use our resilience, and when to actually stop fighting? I'm sure God meant it in a different manner and not the way a lazy person perhaps would want to see it.
So true. So true. Yes. So for me, it's about knowing what I can control and trying to discern what I can't control. I can't control that I have a child who has ADHD. I can't control that I have a child who has anxiety or a child who has autism. So I can't fight against those things in the sense of trying to make them not be there or trying to make them go away. And some of these battles, like a battle against anxiety that one of my kids is dealing with, that's not really my battle to face. I can stand alongside my child. I can offer some wisdom and guidance, but I can't fight that battle for this child. Um, I we mentioned earlier that one of my kids also has dealt with addiction, and that was a place where I really had to learn that's not my battle to fight. My battle is to fight to stand here and to be present and available, but also I can't make the addiction go away. I can't fight against the addiction on behalf of another person. Um, I can't make this better, but there are things that I can do. Like you said, my own resilience, and it has built so much strength and resilience in me, even to just stand and say, my fight is to be strong and to stop doing what I was doing to enable that addiction. Um, so that was a really hard thing for me to learn, because, in a sense, the lazy person's way of approaching it could be or would be to say, "Oh, I'm just gonna do everything I can to fix this." But anybody who has lived with a family member or a loved one who is facing addiction knows that as long as the person who is dealing with the addiction doesn't have to fight that battle for themselves, they'll be happy to put it on everybody else so they can just keep doing what they've been doing.
Absolutely. And that brings me to your book, Thriving in Grace. We'll come to that. But before that, we also talk about the grace cycle. So tell us a bit about, about the grace cycle first. Then we'll come to the book, Thriving in Grace.
Yeah, the grace cycle is a really powerful way to approach transformation and change in our lives. And it's a little bit of a different approach than most people take. Like most of us, when we want to change something in our lives, and I think a great example might be just weight loss. It's something that a lot of us can relate to. I need to lose 10 or 20 pounds. So what do? I'm going to just overhaul everything in my life. I'm going to throw out all of the unhealthy food. I'm going to, gear up for battle. And I even look at myself and go, ew, this is gross. I don't want to look like this anymore. Right. But in the grace cycle, we want to take a little bit of a gentler approach. So the acceptance that I talked about earlier is a key to understand, the story of why I am where I am, that I need to make a change before I start making a change. Because if I don't understand what's been going on inside me, inside my heart and my mind, then I'm going to have a hard time sustaining any change that I make. Um, Also, with the grace cycle, I encourage, instead of a complete overhaul of everything, let's just take one simple change at a time. Instead of trying to, I'm going to change all of my eating habits, I'm going to do everything differently. And then, 2 weeks later, here I am in the pantry with a bag of potato chips because it's not working for me to do everything at once. So maybe it's as simple as substituting water for soda at my meals. And then a few weeks later, when I feel like I've got that, then maybe I say, okay, I'm going to stop having snacks after, 8 p.m. or something like that. And just a simple change at a time. A simple change isn't always an easy change, but it's just one thing at a time. And another key to this is to constantly pay attention to where I'm succeeding and celebrate that, always celebrating my wins. So, I walked past the pantry and I didn't grab the potato chips. Celebrate. I didn't have a snack tonight before I went to bed. That's a success that I need to acknowledge and celebrate instead of just walking past those victories and and not paying attention to where I'm actually doing well. So it's a whole 5-step process that's outlined in the book, Thriving in Grace. But those are some of the keys that are a little bit different from the way most of us approach any kind of change in our lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's come to your book now, Thriving
Mhm.
in Grace. Any particular moment that that inspired this book, or is it the plan was all along to write a book? Because when you are dealing with so many problems, the book is on last in your mind. So I
Mhm.
want that's why I asked this question.
Yeah. So I, about 8 or 9 years ago, started teaching some fitness classes. And I was particularly working in one gym where we had some really intense workouts. And I would see people come in and really transform their physical bodies. Um, and I got to thinking about how one of the things that Jesus said in the Bible was, "What does it profit a person to gain the whole world and lose their soul?" And I got to thinking, what does it profit us to have the perfectly, healthy body and strong and able to do everything capable with our body, but we lose other things that are important in life too. So I got to thinking about just kind of taking the idea of fitness and wellness from a whole self perspective, not just our physical body, but also our hearts, our minds, and our souls. And then from there, also in the book, we look at just some ways, not just my own self, but how I relate to the world. So we look at relationships, vocation, and finances as well. And so how we impact the world and the world around us impacts us. And so, how can we be whole and healthy in all areas of our life and not just a perfect physical specimen?
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you have a copy of the book with you right now, Karan, if possible?
It's in another room, AJ. I almost grabbed one before I came out here, too.
Right, no problem. So,
Yeah.
who is this book for?
This book is for, it is a biblical foundation for wellness in all areas of life. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily only for Christians. I mean, anybody who can accept what the Bible teaches as any kind of authority for life would certainly benefit from it. Um, but if you are looking to experience a change physically, emotionally, mentally, um, in your relationships, in how you are experiencing your work, these are all areas that that the book, at a very high level addresses. But with the grace cycle is so easy to apply to any area of our lives. So the book is kind of for anybody who's like, I've been trying to make a change and I just can't figure out how to get through it. Nothing's working for me. This is a way to stop trying harder and try something different.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, looking back at life, how do you see now? Does God also give respite from all the problems? Can you look at things, all the 5 A's that you talked about? Do you still have them, or life is a bit much better than earlier on?
They're still there. I mean, but as my adult children are taking more responsibility for their lives, um, by the grace of God, my child who was dealing with addiction is now sober. Many, many prayers from not just us, but many people prayed over that. So that is an answer to prayer. So, um, addiction, anybody knows it's still there, but this child is experiencing sobriety. My son with ADHD he still has ADHD, but he's managing it and it's not, directly impacting me. Um, but he is responsible for himself. And then the younger kids with the anxiety, with the autism, um, we're still in it, but we're also, I think for me, I am able to approach it all from a place of doing what I can do to be present and to offer wisdom when it's appropriate. Um, but not feeling like I have to be completely in control of all of it. So, yeah, it's all still there, but it's not all on my shoulders. I'm not having to bear the weight of it all anymore.
Absolutely. There's much to learn about life and resilience and fighting, and also to stop fighting when the time comes.
Mhm.
So all those things who people would want to connect with you, learn more from you, about your book. What's the best way for them to do so, Karen?
I have a website. It's KarenADittman.com. And when you look there, you can find links to my books and other resources. You can find links to um, my YouTube channel and some things that I put up there. I even right now have a quiz on there about how to set goals and reach your goals through the grace cycle as opposed to just trying to power through it all.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me, AJ.